now. Welcome to episode number 369 of the Beyond Social Media Show, the podcast for all of you marketing, advertising, public relations, and communications professionals. You can find us by searching for Beyond Social Media Show. We are recording on January 15, 2022, our first episode of the new year. Let's hope 2022 was better than 2021, was better than 2020. We can all hope. Hope springs eternal, right? We're going to try and be disciplined this year and keep our podcasts less than an hour long, less than 45 minutes long. So we've agreed, Biel and I have agreed to take 2 articles for best each, so that's 4, 2 articles for worst each, so that's 4, rather than 3 or 5 each. So we're going to try to keep it down a little bit this year. So kick it off. Our stories for the first episode of 2022 include social justice shirts, LinkedIn's virtual events, Gap's $500 hoodie, real estate influencers, Apple trackers, anti-competitive Facebook, refusing cookies, funding WMDs, and stick around for some stats on Gen V's brand expectations. But we kick it off as we always do with the best story of the week, and BL has that honor as usual. BL, what do you got?
Well, I thought this was an extraordinary campaign. It's called What If They Were Black? And excuse me, a firm called Goody Silverstein and Partners created a campaign that had these airbrush style memorial shirts like you see after concerts, 1 year after the January 6th insurrection. And they're a nonprofit organization that they developed it for called Courageous Conversation Global Foundation, and they're dedicated to equality and social justice, and they wanted to explore this question. And it's a really serious question. It features a limited collection of these airbrush style shirts designed by artists named Timothy Blewett Jr. and Cassandra Burrell, and they were they had messages on them like in loving memory and rest in peace, are the kind of things you usually see in these shirts. With the description, they said, on average, Black male offenders receive prison sentences 19% longer than white males. These shirts have been created to memorialize those who would have been killed on January 6, 2020, had it been Black people storming the Capitol, because the reality is those people would now be either dead or in jail. So there are Black versions of the rioters, including the QAnon shaman, and statistics pointing out the bias that Americans have in the justice system for people who are Black. And they point out that Black people are 5 times more likely than white people to be imprisoned. And one shirt, that's what one shirt says. And another one says 1/3 of unarmed people killed by police are Black. And I know that's not very cheery, but it's very necessary. And I think brilliant.
Cool, very good campaign. Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
that especially the insurrection images makes the point. This is nothing to do with that, nothing that serious, but pretty cool nonetheless. This is from TechCrunch's Ingrid London, who reports that LinkedIn is joining the social streaming audio party. They are rolling out a new events platform this month that will include listing events, hosting them, and marketing basically the interactive live events, starting out with audio only. So streaming audio, that's launching in beta this month, but then it is going to be followed by a video version that will launch in the spring, and they will be initially targeting creators that use LinkedIn already as organizers and as hosts. They have been experimenting with other features that they may add to this, including a paid ticketing option. But for now, it's a free service with no plans for ticketing at this point. But the tools will include basically end-to-end interactive content tools. You won't need a third-party software to run the events. You can record and run the event right from within LinkedIn. It will include tools for online attendees and hosts to speak to each other in live conversations, moderation tools. Attendees will be able to communicate to each each other both during and after the events. And LinkedIn will also be, promoting the events, listing the events, and helping get the word out. So this is a smart move, I think, by LinkedIn, not just streaming audio, but basically a virtual events platform. They have invested in the virtual events platform Hopin, which is among the top virtual event platforms available. So makes a lot of sense, given that we don't see any particular end to this pandemic in the near future. So virtual events are going to continue to be in our life, and LinkedIn, for business events is the place to be. So I'm excited for it. I can't wait to try it.
Yeah, they're really doing a lot of new things with their creator platform. And I forget what it is exactly I applied for, but you get a set of tools that you can use for 3 months for free from them. And then they'll help you learn how to use them. But what I notice about LinkedIn, I imagine you've noticed this too. People have started to use it kind of like Facebook. There's a lot of personal stuff on there that I personally could do without. I mean, I think LinkedIn's a great place for business, but I don't need to know that your kid just lost their first tooth. Just not what I want.
Yeah, I don't know
go
about
there
that,
for.
but I have seen that. I think if people start using it as Facebook with that in that sense, then it's probably going to turn people off. But I also have seen people using it in the sense of, it was a tough year for me personally, professionally, and these are some of the things the challenges that I had. I think just adding that personal dimension in the context of the network being a business professional network, right?
Yeah.
Makes a lot of sense. And I've seen a lot of engagement around those types of posts where they frame it in terms of their professional lives,
what they learned and
yeah.
what the challenges
Yeah.
were. Yeah. And where I am a year later after whatever it is happened. Yeah, I agree with that. But I just don't really need to know that you had a birthday party for your kid.
Yeah.
But anyway, this is unavoidable, actually. The Gap is using NFTs to unlock physical clothing. So they're the latest to launch an NFT collection and theirs includes $415 tokens that come with a physical hoodie. So this is from a Verge article by Mia Sato, I guess it is. And they come in the form of digital hoodie art, and they have different levels of rarity at different price points. So it's gamified and rare and epic one-of-a-kind tiers are going to roll out in the next few weeks. And they're partnering with an artist named Brandon Sines, and he's the creator of the Frank Ape cartoon character on the design. So they're built on a blockchain platform called Tezos, which claims to be more energy efficient than the normal blockchain. And common level pieces start at roughly $8.30 or 2 TES. They're called TES, and they went on sale Thursday. So the news is that the epic level are priced at around $415 or 100 TES, which include digital art and a physical Gap X Frank Ape t-shirt. And you know what the thing about this is? They will sell out. But first you have to purchase 4 common and 2 rare NFTs. It's very complicated and it's gamified. And they said that they want to encourage people to collect hoodie art leading up to the epic level. And, you can also buy a blank hoodie for about $25 because they're having a sale right now. But in this case, if you get to the top level and, and you're picky about your clothing, you could spend $500. So I know that this is not your favorite topic, but they're just the most recent brand to do this. And the value that I see here is that NFTs are useful for tickets, for events, for, there are physical things that you can do with them. So I think that this is an example of a brand trying that concept out, but come on, $500 for a hoodie.
I also heard that the blockchain that they're using is more energy efficient, so more environmentally friendly. And I kind of coughed into my coffee at that, because I mean, blockchain is horribly energy inefficient. So it's just slightly less worse, I guess, is what I'm hearing.
It's actually a lot less worse. And when you start to look at, for example, the electricity energy that's used by appliances that are on but not in use, that are plugged in but not in use, the comparison's pretty close. So a lot of it is bad press, honestly, but that's just the way it is.
I got some more bad press. We'll do it in the worst, though.
Yeah, okay.
You done with that topic?
I am.
All right. So I have this. I just ran across this as doing some research here in Minnesota, and found it in search. And there's a local real estate agent. His name is Jesse Lynch, and he's positioning himself as a relocation expert. Found him on YouTube, and he's got a YouTube channel that he's doing. I mean, every real estate agent should be doing this, in my opinion. They don't all have the skills, because this is really well done, but he's got a website called tothetwincities.com. And what he does with his YouTube channel is he produces virtual tours of the cities. So he's got one in Minneapolis and St. Paul, and then the surrounding suburbs, the metro area of Minneapolis, St. Paul. So he narrates them. The agent is narrating them. High production value. He's got drone shots in all of them. They're about 20 minutes to a half an hour long, and he points out things that are unique to that particular city, as well as home prices and school systems and things that you would want to know if you were looking to possibly move into or buy a home in that city. He's got about 3,000 YouTube subscribers, so not a lot, but I mean, you don't need a lot if you're a real estate agent trying to sell homes in the Twin Cities. But just really smart, clearly demonstrates he knows these locations, these cities. He knows all the ins and outs and the quirks and the charming things about them. And then he's got a lot of visibility. I found him through search by searching for a city name, and I found one of his videos that way and discovered him that way. So we'll put a link to we'll embed one of his videos in the show notes so people can see what they look like, but really well done.
That is really smart.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I agree with you. Every real estate agent really should do that. And, the production value, it really ups the ante, though, for most people.
Right. Yep.
So that brings us to bad news, huh?
It does indeed.
Okay, well, Apple's having a PR scandal, the first of 2022, but probably not the last. I don't know if you're familiar with the little itty bitty air tag. It's turning into a scandal because it's used to stalk people.
Great.
Yeah, really. So this is from a TechCrunch story by Lucas Matney, and there was some background from Kay Holt and Chris Holt. And so the Apple Watch, you probably saw the ads, and the watch in the ad that I saw, it's saying the wearer of this watch has fallen and is unresponsive, and our location is this and that, and it keeps repeating until the help gets there. So it's really literally life-saving. And the last few generations of the Apple Watch have concentrated on health tracking features and even identifying rare conditions, and and also touting this just life-saving thing. So with the air tags, there's potential for some of that same good, but there's much bigger downside. Air tags have this problem because they're object trackers. If you don't know, they're a little larger than a quarter. You can attach one to your key ring. If you're constantly looking for your keys, like a lot of us are, and then you can use your phone to track and find your keys. Or if you're like me and your phone falls in the couch, you can use it to find where your phone is, because you don't have a landline anymore, so you can't just call your phone. So how they work is they use this high frequency radio to act as kind of a beacon, and they let other devices that have the same chip easily locate the air thing. So one of the things it's helpful for is finding your phone. But what happened was a model named Brooks Nader, she shared her experience on Instagram stories, and she said she was walking home alone, and your phone speaks to you when it finds the thing, and it told her that someone's tracking you and has been for a while. And she was walking home late at night by herself, and she found that the AirTag was on, and I guess it has controls where it's not always on, but she wasn't aware of it beforehand. And she said it was the scariest moment ever. And I just want everybody to be aware that this exists. So it's not the first time that that's happened. There've been reports about thieves using them to follow and steal high-end cars. But hers is a really high profile one that ought to draw attention to the issue. And so, it's got such a PR liability potential. It's hard to see how Apple justifies continuing to sell AirTags until they figure this out so that it's not possible for this to happen. And it's really a unique era for Apple because they delivered what they promised, but they failed to consider the full scope of it. So in the next year, they said, this article says, we're going to undoubtedly see examples of AirTags used nefariously, but that's not what Apple wants. And it may be that the product is going to be defined by its shortcomings, which are pretty gross.
That's pretty scary. I mean, that's
Yeah.
really scary. But I guess, Apple is on a tear in terms of scaring people because their ads are designed to scare you into buying an Apple Watch. So
yeah, exactly. When you're in a ditch, that's what you should be wearing.
No.
Yeah.
Yeah, those, I mean, I've got one of those trackers, Tile tracker that
Is that an Android one?
No, works on my iPhone. But it's good for when you go to a concert and can't remember where you parked. Need to find the car.
I had that problem and had to wait
too.
for all the cars to be gone before I found mine. Yeah.
That was the storyline of the worst date in my entire existence. Can't find the car. What the yeah, anyway. So Facebook is being investigated for potential anti-competitive behavior. Can you believe that?
Kel Supri.
Facebook? Come on. This is from an Engadget article by I. Bonifacic. The Federal Trade Commission and several attorneys general from various states are reportedly investigating Facebook's virtual reality division for potential anti-competitive behavior. The article cites Bloomberg, saying that states attorneys general had begun interviewing third-party developers last year to find out if the company had put them at a disadvantage when they tried to compete against Facebook's own Oculus software. So some third-party developers claim that that Facebook frequently copies their best ideas. What?
How many times have we reported on that? Oh my God.
Can you say reels? Yeah. And then makes it harder for their apps to function on its Oculus headsets. The article cites one developer in particular, creator Guy Godwin, who had a virtual desktop app that in 2019 he added a feature to his app that allowed Oculus Quest owners to stream PC games to their headsets. Facebook reportedly threatened to delist the app if he didn't remove the feature. And then that same year, Oculus released Oculus Link, which connects your headset to your PC via USB-C cable. So coincidence?
I think there are no coincidences. Well, this one's about Google and Facebook being fined $240 million for making cookies hard to refuse. This is from a French this is from a Malwarebytes story by Pieter Arntz, and it's a French privacy watchdog, the Commission Nationale de l'Information et des Libertés, has hit Google, YouTube, and Facebook with fines of $240 million because they don't make refusing cookies as easy as accepting them. And this is like a daily irritation, really. But they found that while the sites offered buttons for allowing immediate acceptance of the cookies, they didn't implement an equal solution for refusing them. And so you have to use several clicks to refuse all cookies, and there's a single one for rejecting them. So YouTube's choice between I agree and customize rather than I agree and I don't agree is an example of what they call a dark pattern, a design that subtly and deliberately nudges you in the direction of choice that they want. And they're everywhere on the web, and they're a problem. And so in addition to the fines, the companies were given 3 months to provide internet users in France with a way to refuse cookies that simply as accepting them. And if they don't, they're going to have a penalty of 100,000 euros for each day they delay. And that's no money to them. You know, that's the problem. But on YouTube, for example, the user's options are either to accept all cookies by clicking I agree, or you customize, which all these so many websites have. And then you have this multitude of choices about search customization, YouTube history and personalization, managing cookies in your browser, and managing data Google Analytics collects on sites. And, you know, most people just give up on that. So internet giants like Facebook and Google, they of course depend on advertising, and advertising was 98% of Facebook's 86 billion revenue in 2020. Then more than 80% of Alphabet's revenue comes from Google ads, and those were 147 billion in 2020. And advertisers bid on specific words and phrases and target specific demographics, and this ensures that ads show up to relevant users at relevant times, or that's the theory anyway. And so to find out who the relevant users are, they gather massive amounts of information about you, and that's where our privacy comes into play. So then the information is stored on these gigantic databases about each of us, and the link between us and our database entries are the cookies in our browsers, and they act like an ID badge of you and show it every time you hit a Google or a Facebook page, or anytime you hit a page that includes a like button, some Google Analytics code, or anything loaded from a Google or Facebook domain. So sometimes they're useful. You know, logging into a website is kind of impossible without cookie ID badge. You have to constantly relog in and all of that and every page, but sometimes it's doing something that's useful to somebody other than you. And that's the issue. So the best comment after the story was, in a stroke of irony, Malwarebytes website also makes it difficult, if not impossible, to customize cookies while using the same dark pattern of having an accept button in plain view. I feel like your criticism would be a lot more meaningful and helpful to end users like me if you practiced what you preach. Now I'm going to clear my cookies after I post this.
That is funny. I don't know. I've got mixed feelings about this whole thing. It's not theoretical that that the advertising systems that these companies have built deliver most relevant in advertising to people who are most interested in it. That is a fact. That happened, and it's become, the reason I say that is since they pulled back those targeting options, advertising has become much less relevant. So there's actual demonstration of that. Yep. I hear you about the privacy, and people are really concerned about that, and they should be. But also, I mean, giving people, I understand, yes, it is a dark pattern that they're trying to get you to do what you want them to do and not refuse the cookies. I mean, first of all, who refuses cookies? What's wrong with you?
I do all day long.
No, I mean real cookies.
Oh, real cookies. No, it's hard to refuse those.
But giving people a choice is not, you know, it's like back when you we used to with newsletters. If you had a weekly newsletter, you get people who didn't want to get a weekly newsletter. So you give them the option when they unsubscribe, do you want a monthly newsletter? And a lot of people did, rather than getting the weekly one. So it's not all bad. And, you know, the other thing is that we're going to have to, you know, if we're going to take away all these targeting options, then we're going to have to pay for a lot more content. And people don't want to pay for content. So what are you going to do?
Well, they never have wanted to pay for content on the internet. That's true. But I know you probably are just as much into paying for content as I am. I mean, I want to support certain media. I want to pay for the Washington Post. I want to pay for the information. You know, there are some Substacks that I want to support. So, you know, that adds up, but I'd rather do that.
Yeah, well, I mean, the other thing is that things are going to cost more because honestly, the cost of advertising, even for especially for small businesses through these platforms, made it possible for them to reach audiences to sell their products and services. But now it's costing more, and it's getting more difficult for those companies to sell what they have to sell. So they're going to have to pay more for their ads, and the cost of the goods are going to go up as a result. Just
Well, there's got to be
basic
some
economics.
other, yeah, but there's got to be some other solution.
Well, I'm just saying it's not all bad, it's not all good, but we are definitely in a changing environment. The real scandal is there was a story on Facebook and Google, anti-competitive behavior. They're price fixing basically their advertising, so they're ensuring that each got a slice of the pie, and the advertising costs are going up because they're colluding with one another. That was another
No
story.
surprise there.
Yeah, right. So anyway,
More bad news.
more bad news. So this is from TechCrunch's Kate Park, who reports on North Korean hackers who have launched at least 7 attacks on cryptocurrency platforms last year. They stole almost $400 million worth of digital assets. This was according to a report by blockchain analysis firm Chainalysis. The report says one North Korea gained. Thank you. Once North Korea gained custody of the funds, they began a careful laundering process to cover it up and cash out, end of quote. In 2021, Ethereum and Bitcoin accounted for 58% and 20% of the funds, respectively, and 22% came from ERC-20 tokens or altcoins. The report also cites the United Nations Security Council that North Korea used the money from these hacks to support its weapons of mass destruction and ballistic missile related programs. So that's one of my primary problems with Bitcoin is unregulated currency can go anywhere.
Yeah, and people who buy it have to use good practices, and
But
people
even
who
if you
don't,
even
No,
if you
that's the
do
really-
use good practices, you get hacked, then your money's going to who knows what. You
it can
can't
happen.
hack a dollar bill.
I think you can certainly find ways around that. But anyway, that brings us to smiles. We need one right now.
Yeah.
So this one's about Uber, and this is hilarious because this happens in my house. Uber's CEO is apologizing to dogs, and it's from an Ad Age story. And so I don't know, you probably heard these ads where Uber's CEO's name is Dara Khosrowshahi has issued an apology and $10 off for people's little animals after an Uber Eats commercial caused some dogs, including my dog Lucy, to go completely nuts. Because in the ad, Uber Eats, it's tonight I'll be eating, and it has like Patrick Stewart and someone else in the ad, and tonight I'll be eating this wonderful thing. And then there's a doorbell rings and the delivery comes and the dog goes ballistic. And then the other guy goes, well, and tonight I'll be eating. And then the doorbell rings and the dog, who's just calmed down, gets crazy again. So, some owners voice their concerns online, saying things like, hey, Uber Eats, there's absolutely no reason to put a doorbell in your commercial with Luke and Jean-Luc, and sincerely, dog owner. And that was from ESPN writer Greg Wyshynski. And then somebody else said, our dog goes crazy every time that doorbell goes off. And so Uber's support Twitter account replied in the comments telling people to follow support and then there would be help. So as a gift following the apology, Uber Eats offers $10 to customers to buy pet supplies from Uber Pet Supplies using the code Loki, which is the name of the CEO's dog. And the announcement comes as they also took the Betty White challenge of donating $50,000 to the ASPCA for local shelters. So, I mean, that's pretty cool.
Yeah, I don't know. Yet another thing that Uber has to apologize for. One.
Yeah, well, that's true.
Two.
But this one's cute.
Two, they take I mean, it's actually clever, but they're not really apologizing. They're just taking this opportunity to get new users by giving a discount on their pet food or whatever.
Well, I'm not buying pet food from Uber anyway.
So there's that. And then three, yes, it's not just dogs. My cats are looking around when the damn doorbell rings, and I'm wondering who's at the door. And so, just stop with the doorbells, stop with the notification pings and commercials.
Yeah,
I'm looking at my phone every time that happens. So
I know.
it's annoying. It's really annoying. So yeah, there's that. My smile is just quick, and you'll have to go to the website to see it, but I found this from Newsby Funny is the source. It's I found it via Laura Dornett, Laughing Squid, but they posted a 28-minute video compilation of 2021's best news bloopers. It is absolutely hilarious. We'll put it in the show notes for people to see, but yeah, it's well worth the watch.
I was watching them earlier and just sitting here laughing out loud. I mean, they are really, really funny. So I came across something today that I never knew existed. It's we're on to shiny objects.
Yes.
This is a hashtag called journorequests. It's a Twitter hashtag. Did you know about this, Dave?
I did not, but it's fantastic.
Oh, and journalists put their requests on Twitter, and you'll find some queries from journalists who are looking for sources. So here's one. Chloe Johnson, she's a writer, editor of the Independent and Stylish magazine and Photos Travel. And she says, looking to speak to people who found the time to make a change to a creative business venture during the pandemic, or who found more time to grow one diverse-led business, and I would be especially happy to speak to them. My DMs are open. And then there was another one from somebody named Sagal, contributing editor to Glamour Magazine UK, and Words in Vogue, Wonderland, Hunger, BuzzFeed, and he says looking for wellness experts to speak to for a couple of features this week, DM or email, and he gives his email. And these are recent; these are the other day. And if you look at that hashtag, you'll see that there really are tons of them. I had no idea about this.
I did not either. That's fantastic. I will definitely check that out. I hope that journalists who are doing this include another hashtag related to whatever their query is, so that it's easier to find. Because I really don't want to be scrolling through a bunch of irrelevant, just journal request hashtags that I'm
actually. They really did not.
So pro tip to you journalists out there.
Yeah. No, they're expecting you to look at journal requests.
Okay. My cool tool is userway.org. It is a Americans with Disability Act user experience compliance tool for your website. It is, they say, with a single line of code, you can get compliant, basically, or get reports on what you need to do to get compliant. There's a free widget. There's a scanner that you can use, so you can plug in your website into their accessibility scanner and give you a report on where you're failing in terms of accessibility. I did an ADA compliant website way back in the day, and you should be. There's a lot of things built into content management tools that make it a lot easier these days, but it was tedious and painful to do an entire website by hand, basically, to make sure it was ADA compliant. We've gotten a long way, but this tool will probably help a lot. And there's a free widget, as I said, but also there's the pricing starts at $490 a year for up to 100,000 monthly page views. So it's pretty generous, and will take a lot of the work out of making sure ADA compliant. It's especially important when you're working with like governmental bodies that have that as part of their RFPs or required, right? And everybody should be doing their best to make their sites ADA compliant anyway.
That's a cool one.
Yeah. I'll just mention this. I got a blog post on on our agency's blog for 6 digital marketing considerations for your 2022 planning. Among them, dual planning for event marketing. So, who knows when
Virtual.
this thing's going to end. So plan for virtual as well. Or probably start with virtual and then be prepared to pivot to events, if that in-person events, if that makes sense. Leverage your public relations, use flexible advertising budgets so you can, given how things are changing in the advertising industry, be prepared to assign dollars to different tactics. Dip your toes in the water, do some experimentation with some new platforms you haven't been using. Reassess your tactics and metrics, especially given, again, the changing nature of digital and how some things that were metrics that we relied on, like open rates, are not so very helpful anymore. And then gather data. This goes against what you're saying with the cookies, not necessarily, but build your own audience so that you can have a direct connection with your own audience and get your own data, so you're not dependent upon third parties for understanding who you're trying to talk to.
That's good advice, Dave.
All right.
Did you write that post?
I did write that post. Yes. We'll put a link to it in the show notes.
Okay. Have another one?
I have a pro tip. This is we'll put this in the show notes as well. This is a security awareness. It's a video about email and phishing, and it's pretty comprehensive and it's really well done. It's by SANS Offensive Operations. They produce offensive cyber security training content. I think offensive, not offensive. Because this was not offensive. So
that's one of those words in English that can be confusing.
Yeah. So we'll embed that. It's a really good training thing that you need to know about
spelled the same,
phishing.
Isn't it?
Yeah. Okay, let's wrap this up with some numbers. This is from PR Daily's Ted Kitterman, who writes about Edelman, the PR firm. Reports on their trust barometer stuff. So this is on Edelman report, where they identified that the priorities of young consumers focus on the collective good. They're more likely to focus on the collective good when analyzing a brand or when assessing a brand, rather than personal relevance. So not only is relevance significantly lower than adult demographics. So Gen V, 38% of Gen V say relevance of a product or service or a brand is important to them, versus 51% for adults. They also report that 8 in 10 Gen V consumers consider how brands treat employees when making a purchase decision. 7 in 10 consider whether the company supports disadvantaged groups or gives back to the community when choosing where to work. And so lots of interesting stuff about the youngest generation here. This might also explain why the Republican Party doesn't want younger people to vote.
Yeah, really. Or anybody with opinions other than their own.
Yeah.
So that brings us to the end of episode 369 of the Beyond Social Media Show. And you just find us by searching Beyond Social Media Show. And links to everything we talked about today will be on our blog, beyondsocialmediashow.com/369. We'd love to know what you think about it. I'm here with David Erickson, my always charming co-host for the last, 12 years? It's forever. And on Twitter, he's D Erickson. On Instagram, he's DE Erickson. On YouTube, he's E Strategy, and he has a wonderful E-strategy blog. I'm BL Achman. I'm What's Next on Twitter. My neglected blog is What's Next blog. What's Next blog on YouTube. My website's blachman.com. And the show, again, beyondsocialmediashow.com. On Twitter, we're at BS Media Show. And you can listen wherever you get your podcasts. We're in all of those outlets. And you can also tell your smart speaker to play Beyond Social Media Show. And we'll be back next week. Thanks for watching.
Thank you.